going on, everyone, and welcome back to my channel today, back in the old setup, because today's record is a really big record for me. It is the new record from TesseracT, their fourth studio record titled Sonder, and it is a follow-up to their last record, Polaris. Now, if you guys have been watching my channel for any amount of time, you would have seen that over the last few weeks I've been doing a retrospective of TesseracT's entire career, covering all of their studio records leading up to this new one. And again, if you guys have followed me for any amount of time, you know that I'm a massive fan of this band. Polaris was my record of 2015, and this has been one of my most anticipated records of the year for quite a while. But having said that, I haven't really loved the singles that have come out. When Smile first came out last year, I wasn't a massive fan of that, and then Luminarie kind of left me underwhelmed, but it was the release of the last single, King, that really got me excited for this thing, and you would have seen my single review for that track a few weeks ago. But I think King is absolutely fantastic, and so let's get into a bit of this record. And what I will say is that this is a really great record from TesseracT, but it does have a few missteps. But something that I really love about this record is that TesseracT are trying something new, and they're trying to expand their sound into something a little bit different to what they've done before. This record has a much darker tone to any of the records that TesseracT have put out before, and when you go through the TesseracT record, you realize that each one kind of has its own little thing going on. So for the debut record, it has a lot of screaming and it's a lot heavier. The second record's a lot more ambient and produced, and then Polaris is much more focused on melodies and hooks. So on this record, what is the sound? As I said, it's a darker tone, and then outside of that, it kind of combined everything that TesseracT have done throughout their careers into one record, but again with that darker tone underlying it. Something that I will say about this record is that the vocals are a bit more downplayed for a large majority of the record, but when they're allowed to really shine, they really do shine. I think that this is not quite Dan Tompkins' best vocal performance, but it is a truly great one, and it's great to hear him screaming again. It's only chucked in every now and then throughout the record, but hearing him scream again, especially with the way they've been recorded, sounds brutal and really adds impact when it comes in. Something about the screaming aspect of a lot of bands is that I feel like they're just doing it to do it, whereas on this record I feel like whenever Dan is there to scream, it's there just because it needs to make that impact and it's necessary. And I think that that's something we're going to see a lot more from TesseracT over the next few years, and his best vocal performances on this record are definitely within the tracks King and on Juno. Juno being one of my favorites from this record as well. King, as I said, it's a true classic TesseracT song. It's going to be in their set list from now until they split up as a band, in my opinion. Everything just comes together in this song to create this great, I think, 6-minute long epic. And it has that dark tone in there, but it has the poppy melodies that we got in Polaris. And I think this is where the record really hits perfection for me. This record also brings back a bit of the ambience that was missing from Polaris and was really accentuated on Altered State. And you can really hear that in songs like Orbital and The Arrow. Orbital being this kind of interlude track, 3 songs in, that really highlights Dan Tompkins' vocals once again and just allows the ambience to surround the melodies that he's singing. And then The Arrow is a really good closer to the record that kind of leads out of Smile. Kind of feels like an outro to Smile, but again, really cool, really ambient, and again, Dan Tompkins doing what he does absolutely best. My other favorite song from this record is definitely Juno. I think this is the song where they combine everything that they've done before together into one song perfectly. Again, it has that dark tone, which I've said a lot of times throughout this review, but it has those bass grooves in the verses, it has those disjointed riffs going on, and the melodies are at their peak on this track as well as on King. So King and Juno for me are definitely the 2 highlights on this record. The album is also quite short. It clocks in at under 40 minutes long. It's only 7 tracks long, and while I did expect a longer record considering how long it's been since Polaris came out, I do think the length of this record really allows you to get into a mode where when the record ends, you just kind of want to play it again straight away. It has a lot of replayability to it, And so that's something that I think is actually a real strength to this record. Now let's get into some of the things that I don't quite like about this record. Smile is a song that doesn't really do it for me. I didn't like the original version, and they've got a new version on this record. I just still think it sounds a bit like a demo. It doesn't feel fully fleshed out, and I think it's Dan's worst vocal performance. I think his vocals have been produced really badly on this track as well, so it's a real shame because that was the leading single from this record, and I get that they tried to change it and meld it to what this record was going to sound like, but I still don't think it quite works. And then Luminarie is a song that I also had a problem with, but I think within the context of the record it really plays well. But I will say the rhythm in the chorus still loses all groove to me. Something I will say about this record, which is something that I had a massive problem with on past Tesseract records, the snare trigger. It's not as bad here. On past Tesseract records, it didn't matter what dynamic shift that the music took, the snare still was at the same volume the whole time, the same intensity. On this record, that is downplayed massively, and I absolutely love that. Thank you, Ackle, for finally doing that, because all the other drums get sampled so well, and it's always the snare that just cracks through even in the softest passages. So I'm so glad to hear that they addressed that. Something that I don't love about the production is the vocals. I think the production on the vocals leave a lot to be desired. They get lost a lot of the time throughout this record, and for a vocalist such as Dan to get lost in this music is such a shame. So I think they need to step it up on the vocal production, probably go back to something like they did on Polaris next time around. And finally, the arrow. I think it closes out this record perfectly. As I said earlier on, it does kind of feel like an outro to Smile, but I think it really closes the record out well, as I already said. I think the melody that is the main melody for this track is really strong. One of the best and most catchy melodies that is on this record. And I just think it really reflects that darker tone that they've had throughout the record and gives it a really nice finale. So definitely a nice track to close out the record. But overall, I think this record is really, really great. It's not as good as Polaris in my opinion, not yet anyway. I've only lived with this record for a few days, but I think it will grow to become one of my favorite Tesseract records. And I'm really interested to see where they go from here. Some people will accuse this band of kind of doing the same thing over and over again. I do hear the little subtle shifts in their music throughout their career, and this one definitely has its own unique flavor to it, but it'll be interesting, as I said, to see what they do on the next record out. But hey, let me know what you guys think about the record down below in the comment section. Really interested to see what you guys think about it, because for me, this band are one of my favorite bands, and this was a really highly anticipated record, so I'm interested to see what other people think. Make sure you follow me on all my social medias down in the description, and hit that subscribe button so you can see more videos from me whenever you goddamn feel like it. So anyway, enjoy the tunes, guys, and I'll see you next time. Fresh Currents.